Welcome to Roundhouse Roulette, a Walker, Texas Ranger podcast. Each week we recap and review one of the 200 existing Walker, Texas Ranger episodes randomly selected by Roundhouse Roulette. I'm Evan Dalton, here with my brother Adam and our fellow Walker-ologist, Mr. Bob Leahy. What's new, guys?
Not much, dude.
Not much. Staying inside.
Yes.
That's good. That's good. I hear that's what we're supposed to do. Well, I would like to thank you all for joining us as we revisit Chuck Norris's explosive primetime action bonanza. Today, we'll be recapping and reviewing Season 4's premiere, Blown Apart, in which a mad bomber escapes from prison and vows to kill all those who put him there, including Walker and Alex. But before we get into our TNT and dynamite, we need a drink. Join us as we head to CD's Bar and Grill, pull up a bar stool, and one of our favorite segments, CD's Corner. Well, fancy meeting you guys here.
Good to meet you here, too, at the digital...
Saloon.
Chili-free saloon.
Oh, listen to this.
What was that sound?
This frosty pour.
So when CD sent all the beers to everybody this week, he included a little surprise for Bob.
What, the chili? Yeah, CD, he packed it in a weird way, and he put the packet of chili right underneath the tape line. So when I opened it, I almost ended up with a huge mess on my hands.
Well, that's CD. He's a wily one.
He really
He
is.
sure is.
What did CD send us this week?
A lemon drop shandy from Tailgate Brewery in Nashville, Tennessee. The Bar and Grill Summer Draft menu describes this shandy as golden yellow in color with delicious lemony and hoppy flavor. A well-balanced bitterness rounds this one out. Let's taste. How's it round out for you, Bob?
I'm typically not really a shandy guy, but this is pretty good. It's got a little less sweetness than I'm used to out of these beers, so that's a welcome change.
It's got a little bit of a bite to it. The first sip I had, I was not expecting that. So it definitely has some hoppiness, but at the same time, it's got that lemony sweetness. I think the draft menu has it right on the money. It's pretty balanced to me.
Yeah, tastes pretty good. It's a little high on the bitterness, but, it's not really a lemon drop flavor. It's more just lemon, which is better. I don't think I'd want to taste it like a lemon head.
Are you complaining to the tailgate marketing department? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay. This is a summer beer that's going to put some hair on your chest, I think.
I don't know how Bob's feeling, but here in the Northeast, summertime came out of nowhere, as it often does. And it's like 100% humidity.
Awesome.
So this is hitting the spot, to say the least.
You don't have any AC, right?
That's true. My wife and I were just down in our basement, which is probably 30 degrees cooler than it is upstairs. It feels awesome down there. But, I came up here for the Walker, Texas Ranger podcast because if anything's going to bring me out of my relative comfort, it's going to be roundhouse kicks.
What dedication.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
I'm not asking for praise, but I appreciate it.
You are so brave.
Thank you. Thank you.
I got an email today from GoDaddy, and they told me that one of my domains that I purchased expired. The auto-renew didn't go through because my credit card company updated the card, and I didn't update it in their system. So I almost lost deathtofootball.com today.
Do you just hoard domain names that you're going to use later?
I have every intention of using it, but I called up GoDaddy and I had to be like, one of my domain names was expiring. I think just the credit card wasn't updated. They had to be like, well, I see you've got deathtofootball.com here. What's that all about? And I was like, oh, well, we were planning on, maybe making some T-shirts for football haters and donating the proceeds to like a head trauma unit or something like that. But they got me covered, and I was telling her, I was like, crazily enough, I kind of got my wish because all the sports are just shut down.
It's true. Careful what you wish for, man.
Yeah, I said, I better not buy any more domains, and if I do, I better keep it pretty safe. At which point she goes, what's roundhouseroulette.com? And I was like, oh, actually, it's a Walker, Texas Ranger podcast we're about to launch. And she knew the show and said she used to watch it.
It was at that moment that she decided to agree with everything you say to get you off the phone as soon as possible.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I told her, I was like, I told her my next domain name was going to be like customer service representatives are hot.com.
That shut that down pretty quick, I assume.
Click.
Did you get her number and we can have her on the show?
So, Bob, maybe tell us a story about how you got that awesome Aerosmith t-shirt you're rocking right now.
Oh, this is because I joined Aero Force One, the longtime fan club of America's greatest rock and roll band, Aerosmith. I purchased for the sole reason of getting pre-sale tickets to Aerosmith playing at Fenway Park. And then I didn't buy them anyway because I basically convinced myself that it was not worth the absurd amount of money that they wanted. Mm-hmm. And now it looks like it's not going to happen anyway, so I got a sweet shirt.
It's a win-win.
It's pretty cool.
And I have a 1-year membership to the Aerosmith fan club.
Does that get you like free wings at the 99 restaurant or something?
Man, I wish.
I love that they're the self-proclaimed greatest American rock and roll band.
Right.
But
of course.
But they could very well be, but they are self-proclaimed.
Well, like the King of Pop. I think that was self-bestowed.
I don't know about Godfather of Soul, though. I mean, I think that was relatively earned.
And by
James
Godfather
Brown.
of Soul, you mean Steven Tyler, right?
Michael McDonald.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That Doobie Brothers tour is canceled, too.
Well, they didn't cancel it. They pushed it off for literally a year.
A year, exactly, yeah.
I think we got to try to hit that up, guys, here in Nashville, the 50th anniversary of the Doobie Brothers with Michael McDonald.
I didn't know it was the 50th anniversary.
Yeah, because most bands sound better after they've been playing 50 years.
That
makes
is
sense,
totally false.
Yeah. I saw ZZ Top last year, and it was their 50th anniversary. They're awesome, though. Man.
Yeah.
I think 50th anniversary is when they're all officially singing one octave down.
Yeah.
At least they have original members, though. And one very awesome non-original member in Michael McDonald.
So smooth.
Did you guys see all this stuff happening with Aerosmith, with Joey Kramer getting kicked out of the band?
Yeah.
And then, man, I kept reading all these articles. I couldn't stop reading them. I don't know why. It was kind of a train wreck, but I couldn't look away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think, is he out now? He was like suing them.
Oh, he's back.
Okay, good.
Yeah, they kicked him out because they were doing that Las Vegas run.
Residency, yeah.
Then I guess he had some health problems, so they had his drum tech in there for a little bit, covering for him. And then they had this tribute to Aerosmith.
It was the Grammys this year, yeah.
Yeah, Music Cares concert with the Grammy Foundation. They're like, yeah, I don't know if you're ready to go, Joey, because you're recovering from whatever you were going through.
Probably had a new hip put in.
And they literally said, if you want to play this concert, we're going to have you audition. So they sent him to some studio where they had some live recordings and had him play along with like a click or something. And apparently they were like, yeah, that just doesn't have a lot of energy. Whoa. We're going to keep your drum tech.
Ouch.
At which point Joey Kramer sued the band. Right. And tried to show up at the rehearsal for the Grammys to be blocked by like some beefy security guards that was all captured by TMZ. This is why I love Aerosmith, because of all the band drama. They act like kids. And that's what rock and roll is. All these egos crashing into each other. So I think we got to give a little shout out to the Smith.
Yeah, it's the same old song and dance. Well, now that we've warmed our seats and cracked our long necks, we're fixing to dig into this week's episode. If you're watching along at home and don't want any spoilers, hit pause and watch Season 4, Episode 1, Blown Apart, and come back to us when you're done. Welcome back. Let's dig in, boys. This episode is the Season 4 season premiere, originally airing on September 23rd, 1995. Needless to say, this one kicks off with a bang. We open this episode, we see the epic Dodge Ram truck in full glory, cruising the back roads of rural Texas. Chevette is the butt of the joke once again, this time being a poor navigator compared to Walker's Cherokee heritage, apparently, which gives him super tracking skills. which we all know at this point.
Walker was kind of like, yeah, Trevette, you don't seem like you know where you're going. And that was kind of like a whole joke of Trevette not having good navigation skills. But then he gets him exactly where he's supposed to go.
That's the nature of their relationship. It's just fun ribbing. They're basically from like a 70s action movie, but turned into a 90s TV show.
And they don't have any cell phones, so it might as well be the 70s.
That's true. He was using this piece of paper. It had like directions on it or something. I don't know.
So Trevette does finally get them where they're supposed to go, which is to the Texas judges. I don't know if it's not really a house, but it's not really a barn. It was something in between. It's the kind of place where you leave the doors open all the time. So I wouldn't think there'd be any AC in that place.
I think I'd call it a ranch.
Okay. Right? Yeah. But this is not a bourgeois ranch. This is the kind of place that judges go to get off the grid, where only their assistants know where they live, or so we think. So they come up to the place, and the judge is kind of like, what are you guys doing here? Walker and Trevette are like, oh, your office told us you wanted to see us out here. Oh, no, I didn't. But sorry you guys made the trip out here. I got to get these fish. They're calling me. And he walks back into the house/barn, and they proceed back up the trail kind of like, well, that's kind of weird. And any astute Walker fan knows something's about to go down.
Oh, well, you know something's going to go down because a couple seconds prior, you saw a grainy, long-distance shot of some guy staring at what was about to transpire from across the pond.
And this guy had, like, epic dad jeans. These dad jeans are like the stuff of legend.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell that he's got his shirt tucked in into like dad jeans with like a 12-inch long zipper, and I don't think he had a belt. So classic. And his button-up shirt is buttoned all the way to the top.
Yeah.
So you know from the dad jeans, bad guy, total bad guy.
And the fact that he was sneaking around too, most definitely, you knew something was about to go down. So what goes down is an extreme explosion. The judge is getting ready to go fishing. He's inside his ranch house, and it bursts into flames because this giant explosion happens, and it sends Trevette like hurtling. This brings us to this episode's Roundhouse reenactment.
I'll be playing Walker. Adam will be playing the bad guy, Max Cale. And Bob, you've got wounded Trevette, so lucky you.
Shaft.
Okay, stage notes say explosion with 6 exclamation points.
Hey, Walker!
You jumped the gun there.
Oh, yeah, let's try this again. Sorry, I was...
Okay, take 2. Clearly, we've never been in an episode of Walker, Texas Rangers, so we don't know these things. Okay. Stage notes say explosion with 6 exclamation points. Walker runs to Trevette's side, cradles his head in his arms. Trevette. Easy, Trevette. I'll get you to a hospital.
Hey, Walker! The judge was the first one! I wanted you to see it, because I'm saving you for last.
A wounded Trevette. Who's that?
Max Cale. That's it.
No, you gotta say it like Max Cale.
Yeah.
Max Cale.
End scene.
I really like how Walker wasn't even phased by Max Cale at all. It was just like matter of fact. This stuff happens every day.
Yeah.
Right. Well, not only that, that pond was not big. It was tiny. It was like the size of a swimming pool. And Max Cale's just on the other side of it. They can all hear him yelling everything. After he shouts that, he just runs off in his dad jeans. There's no way they wouldn't be able to catch him if they actually tried.
Well, no, the reason why he didn't catch him was he was tending to Trevette. It's kind of like Batman,
That's true. You can't leave the injured behind. You gotta tend to them first.
Right.
Fair enough. So what an epic setup. That's when we see the beginning credits start to roll.
Which I might add, this is the earliest we'll see the credits end maybe ever, because the credits usually end pushing on 15 minutes into the episode. The credits were over at 5 minutes and 1 second this time.
Wow.
They were ready to get going because once you light that fuse, the show's ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, this show is a powder keg, ready to blow at any moment.
There was only one scene. Some of the other episodes, they might have several scenes before the credits. So it was very organic, the way they went to the credits. And they rolled the credits while they were having all these aerial shots of Dallas. It was very traditional for Walker, Texas Ranger.
Yeah.
I don't know if I was impressed or disappointed, but...
You know, you got to keep in mind, this is essentially season 3. So Walker is still very much a raw TV show. It hasn't really gotten a lot of its, I'm not going to say gloss, but it hasn't fallen into the same old routine at this point, and the same old sound effects.
So what happens next is that they all meet at that same old hospital room they use in every show.
Yep, the purple hospital waiting room.
And Trevette getting injured in the explosion sidelines him the whole episode for the most part. And they're kind of like checking on Trevette. Alex and Walker are there, making sure he's all right. And they comically wheel him out on a gurney, and he's face down because the explosion made him get stitches in his ass.
Yeah, it was a little weird. They were sort of equal parts kind of ribbing him, but also sincere. I wasn't quite sure how to take that one. Like season 6, they would have been playing goofy music and really letting him have it. But in this one, like, Walker was very sincere about, like, get better, man.
Yeah, and he sounded like, when he was like, Trevette! That was the most I've ever heard him care about anything. While he's there, there's a little bit of dialogue with Alex about this Max Cale guy. Who is this guy? He's some crazy mad bomber who Walker put away, and Alex prosecuted the case. He apparently was transferred to a mental hospital where a psychiatrist released him because they thought he was of sound mind. It seemed like a psychiatrist is the reason why this guy got out. Like, psychiatrists are just bad news.
Well, yeah, the psychiatrist put him in minimum security, where he then murdered 5 inmates and a guard and escaped. Clearly not reformed. And we learn that through the next scene, where somehow someone knew that Walker was at the hospital, and they called him to let him know that Max Cale was about to make an appearance over the phone on a local radio station show where people call in and talk to another psychiatrist named Dr. Julie Pine.
And she was originally Max Cale's psychiatrist and knew that he was nuts before the newer psychiatrist put him in a looser facility where he was able to escape. So apparently what happens when you're a psychiatrist is you become a radio DJ afterwards. I thought that was an interesting transition, by the way.
Yeah.
Also, this radio station, it looks like the Alamo with 4 letters pasted on the front.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it's clearly like an old rundown building, and then they gave it like the really quick stage dress treatment where they just put like 4 block letters out front and then like a fancy entryway.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same thing they did to the TV station in the episode we watched in The Patriot, where it looks like a fake entryway to a building.
So she calls up the hospital because somehow she found out that Walker was there, and she says, hey, I've got Max Cale, the crazy guy, the mad bomber, on the line right now. But I'm on commercial, so, I'm going to try to hold him as long as I can. Oh, wait, commercial's over. I got to go back to the air. And Max Cale, he starts talking all creepy to her and eventually just says, you know who I am. You're the reason I was able to escape because I listened to your radio show and I was able to take all the buzzwords that you talk about all day long and use them in my therapy to convince people that I was totally cured.
That was pretty good.
I thought that was awesome. And then he pretty much says that he's coming for her and everybody that put him away.
It's at this point that Walker decides to put Alex under protective watch, and he's going to start putting all the other people that helped put Cale away under secure watch. He goes and visits Dr. Julie Pine at the radio station, and this is where we learn a bit more about how totally crazy Max Cale really was. I believe her quote is, "He's one of the best at lying." And then they're like, "How did he get out of prison?" He's like, "Yeah, the way he fashioned a bomb out of stuff he just found in prison." And Walker goes, "He was a master at building bombs too." Man, this guy does it all.
Really laying the groundwork here.
So while he's paying a visit to Dr. Pine, we see Alex get in her her police escort vehicle and drive down the road. And, there's an ancient Cadillac parked on the side of the road with no one in the seat. But it doesn't zoom in, but you just see, like, the whole car. And then...
From the side.
Yeah, from the side. And then you see Max Cale, like, just sit up really quickly in the car. It's, like, super creepy. And as soon as he does that, they do a digital zoom.
I just gotta say this right now, that the actor that played Max Cale is amazing. I mean, this could be one of the best Walker villains I've ever seen. He commits to the role so over the top. It's like a David Lynch film.
He really does.
It's like an episode of Twin Peaks with this guy, because it's so off from everything else, and he's so sincere, and he goes for it in a way that most of the other actors on the show are just kind of very lukewarm. But he is passionately going through these lines, and he has such a weirdness about him that you just don't know how to feel about it.
Creeped out is usually how I feel about it.
To the max.
So he obviously starts trailing the escort vehicle, and while he's doing that, Walker then goes and checks up on a couple other people, Max Cale's wife and daughter. Of course, as soon as he gets there to see Max Cale's ex-wife, who's the one who turned Max Cale in, Walker is confronted with some bodyguards that she's procured. They're pretty fashionable. Now, clearly they're not wearing an Aero Force 1 t-shirt, Bob, but could you maybe describe these guys in more detail?
Well, I will say, I don't think I saw a sleeve in that parking lot. I mean, a lot of denim.
Yeah.
A lot of denim. A lot of gold chains. I think I saw like a choker on one of the guys.
Yeah, it was like a leather daddy choker on this guy. It's like,
Yeah.
what? Whoa.
Yeah, he was the guy with the jean jacket cut off the sleeves. This bunch of sharp dressed men right there.
It's a biker gang of at least 8 guys.
One guy's dressed real over the top in a shirt that's like screen printed with like outlines of skulls all over it. And he's got the nastiest mullet I've ever seen.
Yeah, tight jeans on that guy too. That's a real good look.
Your Southern Rock special.
So they try to guard Angela Cale, that's Max's ex-wife. But of course, Walker, he just cuts through them like butter. He basically roundhouse kicks one guy, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, he literally took on a whole biker gang.
Yeah, although the guy in the skull t-shirt decided he didn't want a piece of that at all. He just stood down.
Well, if you start off with a roundhouse kick, usually people just submit. And that's what he did. So,
Well, actually, he started off by catching the first punch thrown at him. And then, like,
yeah.
apparently, it sounded like he broke the guy's arm after grabbing his fist. But
Yeah, he like crushed his fist.
Well, dude, the good guys, they always wait for the first punch to be thrown.
Right.
So then they can just roundhouse kick somebody.
So after he dispatched 2 of the guys pretty effortlessly, the other one submitted, and he said, "You guys know the drill."
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah,
Because that's a
yeah.
carryover from the very first season of Walker. But so what
Yeah.
happens next?
So we just get more backstory on Max Cale. So Max Cale's got a daughter as well, and the daughter seems very loyal to Max. But Max's ex-wife clearly knows how absolutely insane he is. But she doesn't want Walker's protection at all. She's got her thugs, and she knows how to be careful. You know, she thanks Walker for saving her bacon years back when Max was first put away in the slammer.
And she offers him a beer, which he says, no thanks.
Yeah, he's on the job, man.
Also, she has this really awesome, like, painting on velvet of, like, is it her? It's like a scantily clad woman on velvet that you're like, if you were, like, a female, would you have pictures of that?
Yeah, or if you were a female with like a 10-year-old daughter, do you want that on your wall?
But you're being protected by a biker gang. You were married to Max Cale.
Choices.
I think he painted that of her when they were married.
He's an expert liar. He's really good at whipping up a quick bomb. And he's a fantastic painter.
Yeah, so they pretty much laid the groundwork that, oh, his ex-wife doesn't really want Walker's protection because why would you when you've got a whole biker gang watching out for you?
But, in a comic juxtaposition, Walker then goes out to his truck, which we realize that they did know the routine, and they had all climbed into the back of his truck and were awaiting being brought to the police station for assaulting a police officer. But instead, he lets them off the hook, instructs them to get out of his truck, put the tailgate back up, and to protect Max Cale's ex-wife.
At which point, Max Cale's daughter comes out and pretty much is questioning Walker.
Why do you want to kill my dad? And Walker's like, I don't want to kill him. He just wants to hurt innocent people, and I want to stop him. But at that moment, probably within earshot of the child, Max Cale actually calls Walker's car phone and says, You thought I was going for my ex-wife? I was going for Alex.
Manically.
She's at home right now. And Walker's like, if you do anything to her, I'll rip your heart out of your chest. And his daughter's probably standing right there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's like, I'm not going to kill him. I'm going to rip his heart out.
He turns to the daughter, don't worry, he'll be okay.
Yeah, it was just a metaphor. All right, Walker's already fought a biker gang, so he has to race to save his longtime on-again, off-again girlfriend, Alex Cahill, from Max Cale.
I don't know if I'd say they're on again, off again. They're always on, but it's more a will they, won't they dynamic, perhaps.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of, I think it's more waiting for somebody to swoop in so Walker doesn't have to commit.
Well, this is perhaps one of the most faux pas scenes of all time, or this is the prototypical bomb scene.
Yeah.
Where he enters the room, the security guard is laid out on the floor, and Alex's duct-taped mouth stuck to a chair with something that a viewer could obviously tell is an explosive device because it's got these cylinders wrapped in brown paper, so that's clearly dynamite, right? And then there's a bunch of wires and a timer attached to her because, you know, you have to have a timer if you're going to blow somebody up. Mm-hmm. He takes the duct tape off and she says, it's going to blow 2 minutes after the doors open, which, you know, why? Then Walker says, there are 3 wires. If I cut the wrong one, it'll blow. And of course, he waits until there's 1 second left, cuts the correct wire, which in this case is the blue one. The thing stops. Pretty ridiculous. But before he cuts the wire, though, they go from will they, won't they, to full-on will they.
Yeah.
He lays a steamy kiss on her.
Yeah. He was going to get one last kiss in.
Yeah, sure. Which is like the most romantic he maybe ever is.
It takes a full-on, bomb scare for him to get some romance on.
She's a total wreck after that. And even he admits, I was a little tense myself. Clearly shaken.
And that scene there, too, like when they kept going from like, oh my gosh, there's a bomb around my neck with like a camera strap on it. And and they go to the floor where the timer is. And that's like a different floor. It's not even in the same room as them with the timer going off that's supposedly right next to them. I looked for a shot where it was all in the same shot and it wasn't. It almost looks like another bomb timer from another episode or something that we've already seen.
It's probably from an episode of MacGyver.
So he saves Alex from the bomb.
Then they go back to the precinct. Trevette is out of the hospital. This nonstop action in this episode. Cale calls again. I don't know how he gets the phone numbers for all these different things. He's got phone numbers for pay phones, Walker's car phone, the precinct phone. He's got the radio station phone number. He's just calling everyone. He's having a great time.
He's driving around in the busted ass car with a car phone that you have to like punch in the number. So he's very skilled.
So yeah, of course he calls the precinct and voices his annoyance that Walker is also quite skilled in the bomb world. He says that Walker should be ready for the next big explosion. Of course, they've got a trace going, and this trace actually works and gets them to a payphone in downtown. Walker gets to the payphone. The thing's ringing. He picks it up, and Max Cale says, hey, man, I'm right around the corner. Come chase me.
And when this guy's driving the car, Bob, can you kind of explain how, like, the way he is when Max Cale is driving? Because he does a lot of driving in this episode. I could not stop watching it. I loved every minute of it.
Well, first, I think we have to talk about the drive to the payphone by Walker. Because during that drive, he appears to have a flashback to earlier in the episode. To the first opening scene where the barn blows up or whatever. So he's already traumatized.
Hey, Walker, you're never gonna get me. Good one trying to get me. I'm gonna kill everybody you love.
This is how you know that Max is in Walker's head. You know?
Yeah,
exactly. He's got to him.
That was great. And there was like literally like a montage of everything that just happened like 10 minutes before.
You know, and as a viewer, I could appreciate it because it kind of reminded me of where we were, you know?
Yeah,
at this point, I think we're about halfway through the episode, and I was like, what happened in this episode? Oh, they just told me. Okay. Oh, that's good.
Yeah. This guy's really crazy.
But once he gets to the payphone, picks it up, and it's Max's, across the street or something like that?
Yeah.
He's
He's just waiting.
He's like, look over there. He sees him, and then this is one hell of a car chase.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Max, every time he's driving, he's checking his mirrors, first of all the time. He's looking behind him. He's got this big, crazy grin on his face. That's how you know he's crazy. Yeah. He's calling people on the phone. He's calling the woman at the radio station. He's checking his mirrors again. He's looking behind him.
Quoting Bible verses. That's one of his one of his signatures is randomly quoting Bible phrases.
If he was in Mortal Kombat, that would definitely be his finishing move. Would be a like nice Bible verse.
So what do you guys think about the overall chase? It was hilarious, a little drawn out. I feel like at one point I was just like, it kept going from shot to shot of each one of them in their respective cars, and both of them looked like not really excited at all. I'll go to Walker's just like driving to the Max. He's
and
just
to
driving.
Add some spice, they like threw some wood on the front of Max Cale's car just to be like, let's throw some planks on the front of his car so he can shake it off to make it more exciting.
It's clearly a car chase where the stunt drivers had way more fun with it than the actors.
They're dodging cars, driving up on the curb. That part was great. By the time they get to this parking garage, I think they take like a minute going up to the next level. Like, I felt like forever just them going up there, and there was a constant tire squeal noise the entire time.
How fast can you peel out driving up a parking garage?
Not very quickly, for sure.
Yeah. Do you guys think this was an advertising thing, or Dr. Pepper literally truck blocks Walker?
Oh, was the Dr. Pepper truck? I missed that.
Yeah, because the reason why Max Cale was able to get a little bit extra on him to get up to the roof quicker was a Dr. Pepper truck pulled out and Walker had to wait for it to move.
Man.
Oh, yeah. Was that inside the parking garage?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, what the hell is a Dr. Pepper truck doing in a parking garage? Is there a soda machine in there?
Here's my theory. I think Max planted that Dr. Pepper truck there. Because how else is he going to escape from this? His method for escape, by the way, is letting the car careen off the top and explode while he apparently jumps out and runs away. If Walker had been in a hot pursuit, he would have seen him jump out of the car and he would have tackled him. So he needed that truck to get in the way, to buy him a couple valuable seconds of extra time.
Where did he peel out? I don't understand. Because, what happens is Walker chases Max Cale up to the top of a parking garage, and Max Cale's escape plan is literally driving his car off the roof, exploding the instant it hits air. Doesn't even hit anything, and then falls to the ground. You're like, okay, so he's dead?
That's clearly what Walker thought. He was fooled. He drove all the way down to the bottom, which probably took him another 20 minutes.
He probably got hit by that Dr. Pepper truck again on the way down.
And by the time he gets down there, he realizes that his body's not in the car. And he immediately gets another call on his car phone. And Max says, that was a small explosion. Wait for the big one. At which point, Walker realizes the parking garage right across the street from the strange warehouse with the letters KRDW on it, standing in for a radio station. So Walker tries to evacuate the building to no avail. He clears people out from the sidewalk, but Dr. Julie Pine and her police detail are both eliminated in a single enormous explosion. So KRDW blown to pieces. Fortunately, Dr. Julie Pine's producer, sound crew, and everyone else in the building was on a lunch break or something, because they were fine.
Amen.
The bodies are piling up here, and they're getting no closer to getting Max Cale off the street.
And thus far, he's done how many explosions?
So far, I think
2.
that's... Yeah, 2. Yeah.
I mean, I was kind of like, this guy's really not much of a mad bomber. I mean, he's got the mad part. We're just waiting for the bomb to drop, so hopefully we'll see that.
Well, it's 2 for 3, too. I mean,
yeah.
To give him credit, he did have a third one planned at this point. But it was foiled by Walker's expert wire cutting abilities.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
And actually, that was the third explosion because the car blew up too.
Oh, right. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. All right.
So, he's
2.5.
And let's face it, I mean, he's a wizard with explosives. That car exploding, it was probably just a cigarette lighter and something else.
He probably just like ripped a fart as he exited out of the car and blew into flames.
So Walker then decides that Cale's next target is probably going to be Cale's ex-wife, Angela. So Walker rushes over, and Angela's gone, but her daughter, Lori, is there. Walker asks Lori where she is, and Lori gives him the info. She's heading into town to shop in Dean Watkins's white pickup. Super specific.
Yeah, that's enough information to find anybody really in Texas. So
yeah, and that's when we learn that Dean Watkins is the creepy biker guy with the choker. So, yeah.
Very good.
So yeah, all the bikers are heading into town. They're having a great time, and a seedy black van pulls up behind them, and it's got Crazy Max Cale in it.
And all the while he's still doing all that, like grinning at the camera and laughing and like, this is great.
Yeah. Talking about retribution and all these things.
So he finds like some nasty duffel bag and tosses it in the back of Dean Watkins' white pickup truck, which houses Angela. And they also packed in like 3 or 4 other bikers. I mean,
it was like a clown car in there.
That truck cab must have smelt terrible. I don't know what self-respecting girl's going to get into that cab, but
sweat and Axe body spray right
bless
there.
her heart. Meanwhile, the bomb's been planted in the back of the truck. Max Cale pulls ahead, laughing, knowing that he's just about to kill his ex-wife and a bunch of other casualties. And Walker somehow finds them in the middle of Texas with no information whatsoever.
Dude, he knew they were in Dean Watkins' white pickup. That's all I needed.
Oh yeah, Dean Watkins only drives on one road. Is this considered a car chase, though?
Nah.
He pulls in front of Dean Watkins' pickup somehow, which if he did that, you'd be in an accident. But somehow the way they filmed it, he didn't get in an accident. He just pulled the guy off the road. And Dean Watkins and Angela are like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You almost killed us. He's like, get out. There's a bomb in the back of your truck. So they all go run to the other side of the truck. Walker jumps in the back of the truck, throws the bomb into a field, and then jumps back to shield themselves with Dean Watkins' white pickup. Bomb goes off in a field. Another explosion, the 4th explosion. Meanwhile, we get a shot of Max Cale driving off laughing, thinking that he just offed his wife.
Yeah, and he's like, hallelujah, or something. it's like, jeez, man. Yeah, the laws of physics in this episode are heavily discounted. So, like, in this one, Walker throws the bomb in the duffel bag, like 500 feet. Mm-hmm. And it just, like, keeps sailing while he jumps out of the truck and ducks behind it. And after he does that, that's when it hits the ground and blows up. This happens again later on. We'll see that Walker clearly moves much faster than most humans can even comprehend, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's his show. He can do what he wants.
Also, this explosion was probably the weakest, I think.
It was like all smoke, right?
Yeah, as far as the special effects were not good. I mean, the other ones were bad, but they were funny.
This was kind of like absurd. Not like a TV
this
explosion.
Was kind of dumb.
Yeah, there weren't any flames. It was just a giant pile of dirt.
Some farmers doing a burn pile, and they were just like in the other field, you know.
Angela thanks Walker for saving her bacon again. Walker says, well, he thinks you're dead, so let's just keep it that way. Let's not think about your daughter here. Then Walker gets a call from Trevette and says that the dynamite that's been used in all of these things was stolen from a construction site. And Trevette thinks that it's an inside job. Some guy named Gene Ardell, who somehow knew Max Cale previously. And this is another classic Walker trope, the shakedown.
Gene Ardell is like looking at a map or something. His back is turned to Walker. He turns around and you instantly see how slimy this guy is. And he goes,
well, the law.
And then he's like, I guess you're fixing to pin this whole thing on me. And Walker's like, it's looking like it. At which point, Gene Ardell realizes there's no way out but to assault a law officer. He turns on Walker with some sort of metal bar. It's to no avail because Walker's boot is way quicker. And in some amazing editing, Walker kicks a stomach. We don't know whose.
Yeah.
And then you see a shot of Gene Ardell's face, and he's just like, ugh! Then Walker just like punches him in the face, and he falls through like this plastic barrel. At which point, Walker's able to get the information, the location of Max Cale's lair.
And Trevette and Walker take this guy along with them too. I love that.
Of course, yeah.
He's like, and you're going to take us there. So of course, Gene Ardell takes him there. They're outside this condemned building. His lackey, Gene Ardell's like, yeah, he's waiting for you. I dare you to go inside. He'll be ready. It's on the second floor. So then they have like a kind of like a one camera montage of Walker walking up steps from underneath because you can see through, and you get like this Walker junk shot as he walks up the steps. He gets to the corner of this open door. They make it like real tense, and he pulls his gun out. He walks around, and then he's in like an empty warehouse.
He does a little bit of snooping, about as much detective work as any Texas Ranger ever does, which is basically touching objects and getting his fingerprints all over everything, and then finding some sort of clue and taking it without any sort of warrant or anything. These are all things Texas Rangers can do, we've learned. The one thing he takes and notices is a notebook that is clearly like the prop master for the show was tasked with just like using a red and black Sharpie and drawing deranged things inside of it.
Yeah, they definitely had like some poor intern, like on here in red Sharpie, kill him now.
Yeah, there's a tombstone.
Yeah.
Why?
Nice.
Why?
Is that a house on the back of a flatbed truck?
It is. Yeah.
And that points to the gravestone. Huh.
And that's just page one. Let me get to page 2 here.
More will die. Star. Dead. Satan dwells? What?
Yeah, we Sarah and I were trying to read that when we were watching the episode. Like, it says Satan what? But yeah, with the screenshot you can see it says Satan dwells. And then eternity.
Oh, and then he's got his code written out right there on the same damn page.
It actually gives it all away. 666.
Oh, jeez. The really well-drawn gun shooting the heart.
We'll have to go
drops.
through this and see if we use that code, if one of these things will actually translate.
It looks like he was playing Hangman, too.
Yeah.
Right? He only got to the head.
That's probably Walker's body.
Yeah.
Needless to say, Walker finds a very incriminating notebook with a secret code in it written in Sharpie marker. So it's kind of the Rosetta Stone to Max Cale's insanity.
It certainly is. But speaking of Max Cale, he gets a notification on his beeper that someone has infiltrated his lair. To which point, he calls yet another cell phone that's in his desk. Walker picks up and Cale says, "Walker, that you?" Walker doesn't say anything.
I knew Walker wouldn't say anything.
Yeah. Walker knows something's afoot. He then realizes that Max is about to blow the place up. Max is, of course, out joyriding because that's all he does.
If you don't say something, I'm gonna have to say goodbye.
And, he blows the place up, but not before Walker grabs the notebook and jumps out of a second-story window.
Epically, I might add.
Yeah, just in front of, like, an enormous explosion. That stunt double put some work in.
And all while holding the spiral-bound notebook in one hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You got to be holding this notebook for the plot to make sense.
For sure.
And then they cut to Walker rolling in the ground in like a smoky field. And Trevette's like, "Oh, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Man, I don't see the notebook anywhere." And then Walker's like, "Where's the notebook?" And he dropped it somewhere.
Yeah.
Walker's grip isn't perfect.
Yeah, and then he's like, "Hey, Trevette, do you think you can crack this code?" And Trevette's like, "Oh, yeah, I got this."
When I watched the episode, I was like, how is he going to crack this code from this really crappy notebook? But actually looking at the notebook, the code was there. So
It's got the code right there, yeah.
So Trevette was probably just like, he literally wrote the code in the notebook.
Yeah, while Walker's doing that, we realize that Cale was on his way to pay a visit to his daughter, Lori, who's just hanging out. Cale easily dispatches the lone thug who's been standing guard. He ends up being the dude with the mullet and the skull t-shirt.
It's sad to see him go.
Skull tank top.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too bad to see him.
Yeah, he was a good guy, I'm sure.
Yeah, he filled that shirt out very well.
And, in one of the strangest, most bizarre scenes, Cale reunites with his daughter, and then tells her, "We're going on a trip, honey." She's like, "Oh, where we're going?" He's like, "A place they treat us like royalty, the land of milk and honey." And she's like, "That sounds like heaven to me." He's like, "You're right. It is. We're going to heaven."
So you're like, he's going to kill his daughter.
But at that point, she's still kind of like, "Oh, okay, great. Is mom going to come?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, the thing about that is..."
your mom's dead.
He just says it to her, and then instantly, any chance he had with his daughter is then over. Since she started not behaving, he said, "You're just like your mom," and essentially was going to kill her too.
Yep. So he drags her away. I believe she utters the classic teenage line, "You killed my mom, I hate you."
We've all said it, folks.
Yeah.
Sure have.
Yeah.
I learned through the wonders of IMDb that girl actually voices the high school cool kid, Connie D'Amico, in Family Guy.
All right. Very good to know.
No, it's not. Onward, we clip to a scene in the Texas Ranger office where Trevette has put his decoding skills to the test, and he decodes Cale's hit list, but there's one thing on there. Rodney Lane. They don't know who that is. Who's Rodney Lane? Then they realize Rodney Lane is the street that Cale grew up on.
I actually watched this episode twice because we had kind of taken a little break this last week, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to watch it again. That line caught me the second time because CD's the one that chimes in and says, that's actually the street he grew up on. Because at the very beginning of the episode, he's giving kind of a backstory on Max Cale and how he tormented his neighborhood as a kid. And that's how he knows where it is.
CD is a great detective. So, of course, they race to Rodney Lane. And that's when they hear from the cop that went to pick up Cale's daughter that she wasn't there. So they know that Cale's got his daughter, too. So they rush over to Rodney Lane. And this includes Walker, CD, and Alex for some reason. And the three of them put themselves in harm's way trying to evacuate the entire neighborhood. Basically by running up to people's backyards and shouting things like, "There's a bomb, get out." And very few of these things are prefaced by saying, "Texas Rangers." It's just them taking a stranger's word for it. Particularly when Alex runs up to people. She's just some random lady. And she runs up to them and shouts, "Guys, move. There's a bomb."
I mean, if someone came to my house, a random stranger, and said that, I'm getting out.
I guess I don't know how I'd react in that moment.
If Chuck Norris came to my door, I'd definitely get out. I'd be like, oh, yeah, he knows what he's doing.
Oh, yeah.
That's true. That's true.
So they have like the whole Texas Ranger force just knocking on doors, like in this neighborhood saying, your house is going to blow up. And you're like, how do they know it's going to blow up?
It's a good question.
There's no time. Just get out.
We know they're going to blow up because we see Max Cale peering through some blinds and cackling gleefully as he watches them evacuate the neighborhood. As soon as the houses are all evacuated and it's only Walker running down the road, that's when he decides to start quoting Bible verses and flip on his multi-igniter switch.
It's like a 1980s TV remote multi-bomb detonator.
Absolutely. He probably got it at Radio Shack.
It even has the pull-out antenna that the old TV remotes would have on it.
Yeah, for sure. And he starts flipping switches and pushing buttons. And we basically see Walker running around with explosions happening behind him.
One by one, he hits a switch on his TV remote and blows up a house in a residential neighborhood. And they're showing overhead shots of the neighborhood. And you're like, they're literally blowing up an entire residential neighborhood. What the hell is happening?
Yeah, the aerial shots were real good.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
pretty
It's pretty ridiculous. I mean, they're just leveling the place.
No house was spared. And what was the final explosion count for this episode? Because
final explosion count, and keep in mind that we're only up to 4 before this. Final explosion count is 14. They just literally go to town on this place.
Oh,
it's funny.
man.
It's funny because his remote only had 4 switches on it.
Yeah, he probably
So
reversed
the math
polarity.
doesn't quite add up, but he might have had a second one.
Well, you know, he was all good. So he's blowing up all the houses, I guess except one. They don't really think to check that one until Walker hears the girl scream, "Help!" And then Walker's like right on the front doorstep, kicks the whole damn door in. And he goes over to Kale's daughter and
whose
unties
legs
her.
weren't tied, by the way, but her arms were tied.
Yeah.
Very loosely, I might add. They're barely tied. She was like holding the end of the rope to keep it tied.
Yeah, Walker's like, "Well, let me untie you," and she just let go of the rope, and he's like, "Okay, there you go."
Yeah.
Yeah. But Walker's just about to release her into freedom when we realize that the whole point of this whole thing was to lure Walker into the house so that Max Cale can blow everybody up, including himself. And he has rigged himself with
A suicide vest.
Yeah, sure. And he starts just spouting off some craziness. And Walker tries to talk reason into him.
He said, "At least let your daughter go." And he's like, "No, she's just like her mom. She's gonna die."
Cale then makes his plan known that he has a silver box in one hand with a red button on it. And for dramatic effect, he held out his right hand with the pointer finger out, like he's about to push the button in his left hand. But Walker, as we've seen already in this episode, is quite adept at grabbing arms and making cracking sounds in those arms.
He's fast.
So he grabs Cale's finger.
And bends.
Yeah, oh yeah, like savagely bends it. And crying out in pain, Max Cale drops his detonator switch to the floor.
Luckily, it lands face up.
Yeah, I think that could have been bad otherwise.
Excellent point.
And what's on the shelf?
It's like another detonator, isn't it?
Another one.
So
Yeah.
his detonator detonated his detonator.
Yep.
His TV remote detonator, which was a different one, was on the shelf. The scuffle made the shelf move, and Walker and Max Cale had some eye contact like, "Oh no, that's going to fall down and hit the new detonator and blow everything up." And Max Cale kind of has like this awesome expression on his face like, "Oh no."
And this
Right?
is when the laws of physics take a break again. The detonator is falling. Walker has time to realize what's about to happen, turn around and jump out a window before a object is able to fall 3 feet to the floor. It's pretty incredible.
This is the second window he's busted through to escape a bomb in this episode.
Yes.
Absolutely. It's a
That's
good thing
pretty
the windows
awesome.
are conveniently placed.
He
I'll
doesn't
say.
just get out the window. He gets like 50 feet away from the house.
Yeah.
He saw that thing falling before he even started to run at the window.
But
I
remember
know.
that music video you sent me, Bob, the Planet Texas, the Kenny Rogers music video?
Oh, yeah.
Planet Texas, in that video, it's its own like solar system. It spins at its own rate. So really time moves at a different rate in Texas.
It's true.
So I can kind of understand how Walker was able to do all that in a normal minute.
Gravity's weaker in Texas.
Yeah, I think so. So that's a term. I'm going to coin it right now. That's called a window evac.
That's pretty good, yeah.
And he did it twice in this episode.
So yeah, of course, Max is then left to blow himself up alone. And his death is pretty epic, not going to lie. It's kind of a hint to some of the transitions and weird camera effects they'll use later on. But they basically slap on some weird-ass digital red filter to make it seem like he's like in extreme panic mode before the whole house blows up.
So at that point, Walker had said, "Hey, go run outside," when he was scuffling with her dad, and she was able to run outside and meet up with Alex and the rest of the neighborhood who were up the street. So this whole thing ends, and she goes, "But my mom's dead." And then it's like, "You just won the game show." Her mom pulls up in like a Corvette, and she's like, "Oh, my mom's alive."
Yeah, he's like, look behind you.
They like kind of punked her into thinking her mom was dead.
It's true. I mean,
It was really weird.
she may have survived, but she'll never mentally recover from that.
Oh my gosh. They spared no expense at blowing up a whole neighborhood, at which point they end on that and you're just like, what did I just see?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like absolute devastation. They've got like helicopter shots of like the entire neighborhood that's just been
the trees
blown
are
up.
on fire. And this episode, the tom fills were on point, right?
Oh, very nice, yeah.
And they weren't like the later period Walker ones. These were almost like 70s drum sounds.
Yeah, real muffled, but lots of verb on them too. So
Yeah.
it's, yeah.
Totally. Yeah, everything was like, "Dug-a-dum-gum-gum." Another note I wanted to do about this episode was they flashed to the local TV news at one point, and the newscaster's voice is the guy who did Leonardo on the Ninja Turtles.
Really?
I recognized it immediately just from the sound, and then I Googled it later. And yeah, it was the same voice actor, just like hired him on literally for like a 2-sentence line on this Walker episode.
He does voiceovers for so much stuff.
So what was CD's line at the end?
Oh, so lame. So Trevette rolls up with Kale's ex-wife, and there's that whole reunion going on, and Trevette goes to Walker, "Where's Kale?" And Walker's just like, "He blew himself up." And then CD's like,
Well, no shit.
no, he's like, "Well, that's some poetic justice for ya." That was supposed to be the heavy-hitting one-liner at the end, but it was like so lame. Compared to the devastation that is surrounding all of them, it's just so lame.
Yeah, they haven't really got the tone right. It wasn't kind of like a Lenny Briscoe one-liner.
Well, it's that time of the show where we each rate the episode on a scale of 0 to 10 boots to the face, resulting in our patented Roundhouse Roulette episode ranking. Complete results of which are available on our website, roundhouseroulette.com. Not to be confused with deathtofootball.com.
Exactly.
All right, so how'd you come down on this episode, Adam? I know you had some complicated feelings and had to watch it twice to figure this out.
I did, because I loved this bad guy so much, because he was so good. This might be my favorite Walker villain I've ever seen. So on that alone, if I was rating on just the villain, I'd have to give this episode a 10. But of all the things that happened in it, it still somehow didn't have the right pacing for me, or something so ridiculous. I mean, granted, they did blow up a whole neighborhood. So ridiculous that I was just like, what is happening right now? So I'm going to come down at 8 for this episode. It was a really good episode, and it did have everything that you'd want in it. It had a roundhouse kick, it had fights, tons of explosions, it had a vehicle chase, but it just needed a little bit extra. The one good thing about it was Walker did everything in this episode. They sidelined Trevette off the bat. So you're like, no one else is going to do all the dirty work for Walker. He's going to have to get in there and do it. And we were better for it.
I knew you'd love this bad guy. So that's an 8 for you?
Yeah, I'm going to go with 8.
All right, what about you, Bob?
I have to say, I did like this episode a lot. I'm going to give it a 9.
Yes. And I'm glad you did. I wanted to give it a 9 or a 10, but I had to watch it again a second time just to be like, no.
Yeah. I mean, I think the bad guy, I don't know if I liked him that much because he was a good actor. I don't think that's what it was.
No.
But like his character, I kept, every now and then I'd be like, wait, is he good? No, he isn't. But it was like enough to confuse me. So that was really compelling. And then, explosions. The one roundhouse kick was a great shot. It was an establishing roundhouse kick.
That was good.
The full rotation, that was outstanding. Yeah, I mean, there's really not much to complain about here. A solid 9. My reservation is I don't know if I'll know a 10 when I see it.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
So I always hold back a little bit. But this one was close, but I don't think it was quite there.
I'm also going to give this one a 9. So many explosions, as Adam pointed out. Trevette gets sidelined, and Walker basically does everything and doesn't call for backup once, even though he chases a guy around all over Dallas, Texas, a mad bomber. No backup, nothing. Just does it all on his own. Costumes were ridiculous for the biker gang. The bad guy was completely over the top. Completely. And I remember seeing this episode for the first time years ago, and I'd remembered the explosions. I remember seeing like the helicopter scenes and being like, oh my God, that's insane. They blew up so much stuff. But I also remember the bad guy, but I remembered both of them as being from different episodes. And when I realized that they were both in this episode, I was quite pleased.
I'm revising my numbers right now. It's a 9. It's definitely a 9.
9s across the board.
Yeah, because I really I had to watch it again because I was like, it's so good, but
you were just trying to find fault. Is what you're doing.
Actually, I was trying to find a reason not to give it a 10, honestly. So then I was going back and forth between 8 and 9 before we started, and you guys got me. It's a 9. It definitely is.
It's so over the top. It has so much. The pacing, it's nonstop. Let's not forget that there's a scene where Walker cuts one wire on a bomb and stops it with a second left, because that happened.
He dismantles a bomb. He jumps out of 2 windows to avoid explosions. He
runs out of the house
and fights a whole biker gang by himself.
Yep.
There's a roundhouse kick, car chase.
There's a mullet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a shakedown, which is awesome.
They just threw that in there too.
Yeah.
That was great.
He kicks that guy in the stomach. He's just like, oh, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. It's a 9.
I mean, I was thinking one thing that would keep it from a 10. You guys mentioned that, it's all about Walker. I think the downside of that was that we had a lot of Walker dialogue, and I had written in my notes multiple times that Chuck Norris is an awful actor.
Yeah, he's real bad.
That's what kind of got me, is because it wasn't slow when Max was on the screen. It was awesome to see that guy just like act and to do his really weird faces. But then when they brought it back to Walker, you were kind of just like, let's get back to this other guy. So that's why I was kind of like, the pacing was weird because that guy was so good in this episode.
So you're going back to 8 then?
I'm staying at 9.
Keeping it at 9.
Yeah,
I hate to break it to you, but his acting is only going to get worse. So yeah, that gives us an average of 9 boots to the face. Quite the epic, explosive episode.
I mean, the name's perfect too.
Blown apart. I mean, yeah, that was awesome.
Suffice it to say, we think blowing up an entire residential neighborhood is one hell of a way to kick off a season of TV. But let us know what you think on social media or by emailing us at roundhouseroulette@gmail.com. When we come back, we'll spin the Roundhouse Roulette to select next week's episode. And we're back. Bob, you ready to spin that wheel?
Oh, no.
Ooh.
Season 9, Episode 5, The Winds of Change.
Was that the last season?
It is the last season, yeah. We've gone from Walker in his stride to Walker in his death throes here.
This is the burden we've chose to bear. Okay? We got to take the good with the bad.
They can't all
after
be
an
nines.
episode like that, yeah.
The Winds of Change. Walker must find a computer whiz known as the Chairman, who hacks into the federal database and begins assassinating a list of undercover agents. And Jillian guest stars.
I like the federal database.
There's just
Oh, not the federal database.
Well, we hope you'll join us next week when we share our reactions to Season 9, Episode 5, The Winds of Change. Share your opinions with us on Facebook and Instagram at Roundhouse Roulette and on Twitter at Roundhouse Pod. And feel free to rate and review us on iTunes or wherever you get your fine podcasts. Until next week,
May the eyes of the Ranger be upon you.
When you're in Texas, look behind you. Oh, 'cause that's where the Ranger's gonna be.